Welcome back to Rise and Grind. We are celebrating the Grizzlies season that was. We are wrapping up the Grizzlies season that ended last night with a loss to the Jazz in Salt Lake City. But it is time for a special drop-in interview this morning. Making her Rise and Grind debut is Cassie Carlson from WMC Action News 5. Cassie, how are you? It's early.
I'm doing great, ladies. How are you? I got my coffee. I don't know how you do it every morning.
We don't either.
This is all coffee, all the time.
I know. What was it like for you waking up this morning? Because we were talking about how it was kind of like one of those, oh, wait, the season ended. It's over. Like I had to like remind myself over and over again because it doesn't feel real just yet.
It doesn't. And I think this whole entire season with the condensed schedule and everything, it was like you watch a game, you wake up the next day and you have another game, or you are off one day and you're preparing for the next game. So it is bittersweet waking up knowing that the season is over, but it's also like this feeling of excitement for what's to come for this Grizzlies team. I think you mentioned it, Jessica. We're kind of celebrating this season because this wasn't what the Grizzlies were projected to do. This wasn't expected. And here we are with them making it to the first round of the playoffs and losing to the number one seed with the best record in the NBA. And there's a lot of pride in what's going to be happening in Memphis for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, big surprise. The Jazz, who won 52 games in the regular season, are the better team. Shocked. I'm shocked. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, this played out as is. Now, Cassie, I was trying to remember, when exactly did you get to Memphis?
So I got here in February of 2020. So I was here right before the All-Star break. I saw the Grizzlies play the Blazers once at FedEx Forum, and then there was like 3 or 4 more games, and then everything shut down. So this is my first full Grizzlies season, but again, it wasn't really a normal season. I guess it's all I know from being here. But yeah, this was my first dose of the Grizzlies in Memphis.
Oh wow! I think I remember meeting you at a game because Jarvis, like you were shadowing Jarvis, and I remember meeting you. It was like right before everything shut down, and then the whole world went through this pandemic. But you talked about how this is like your full-on Grizzlies experience. I know the last game was an away game, but what was it like to get that chance to get to experience? We couldn't see a packed out house for the playoffs, but you got so close to that, and to see all the fans, how loud it gets, and for you to hear Whip That Trick maybe for the first time at FedEx Forum.
I had heard people talk about it so much, and then hearing it for the first time, I was like, this is what they meant when they were saying FedEx Forum is just on a different level during the playoffs. I cannot wait. I hope it's a packed house next year, but the atmosphere inside of there was incredible. That was my first NBA playoff experience in general, so I didn't really know what to expect. Grizzlies fans set the bar extremely high, so assuming that this all goes how we think it's going to go next year, I cannot wait to see that place full of Grizzlies fans. More growl towels, more Whip That Trick. I had there was a Salt Lake City guy from the news sitting next to me, and he's like, is that what they meant when they say like FedEx Forum is on a next level? And I said, that is what they meant. So they were impressed too.
Yeah, I think it's just such a unique city, right? And for you, it's so hard because moving here in February 2020, so many people moved and started new jobs and in new cities across the country, and then weren't able to experience those cities. So I know it has to have been a little bit different than you expected when you first moved to Memphis, but to be able to finally pick things back up after enduring the long and hard life of a local sports reporter and anchor during a period where we didn't have sports. So how did you make it? How did you make it through that time?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
I actually thought about it the other day because I was at the AAC conference basketball tournament when everything got shut down. I remember that long drive back from Dallas thinking, I don't even know if I have a job right now because there was like nothing going on. It was that one thing after another. It was just stopping. And so there was like a couple months there where it was all just coronavirus based. I'm like, I miss sports so much. Then you kind of adjust, pivot, I think was the word of 2020. And, with the no fans, you kind of like, I think we all a little bit became a little numb to not having fans in the stands because we just thought that's what it's going to be for this year. So it was interesting, but this 2021, while there have been some things that are still weird, it seems like we are getting closer and closer to normal. And having fans at a playoff basketball game in Memphis was just like the icing on top of the cake of what's to come here in Memphis, and I think better things ahead. And also hearing that the University of Memphis is planning on having full capacity, it feels like we are like turning the corner, and Memphis is just returning to good old times, and the fans get a chance to see, back to Memphis sports, which have been great over the past couple of years.
That is so true. I know we are excited to see like the future just in general for everybody, not just in sports. I think in everybody's lives,
general society.
It's like it is to like be around family again. Some people still haven't been around their family just yet, and for these players have had a long busy jam-packed season where if they're not playing every day, they're playing every other day, and now these guys get to have an off season. They get to go be with their families, hopefully take a vacation before it gets back to work. Hearing those Grizzlies players say last night, off season, work. We just asked Brevin Knight, but even from your standpoint and view of things, what was it like to hear Dylan Brooks and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant already talking about the bright future that they have ahead of them?
Yeah, I think what's interesting about this Grizzlies team and unique is how much they do seemingly love playing with each other, and how they are all so passionate about the game. Jaren Jackson Jr. was talking about how like this is like their addiction. They live and die by basketball. It's their escape. And so hearing that, they are ready to get to the off season, they are ready to put in the work. They think it's going to be a special off season because they got that taste of the playoffs, and they know now what it's like, what it's going to take. They're hungrier than ever. And I think that's something that maybe you don't find in every NBA team. But the Grizzlies, they are young, and they are hungry, and they are talented. So they know what the next step is. I know Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja did not want to give away kind of what they want to work on specifically in the offseason. Ja, of course, does everything. But I think we come back at the start of next season, we see these players transform their bodies, work on certain things like Josh shot from three, and Jaren just having a total off season where he's healthy and can actually work on his game instead of rehabbing a knee injury. And I think that the Grizzlies are going to come back stronger.
Mm-hmm. We saw a glimpse of something kind of like that when the pandemic happened, and in that in-between time of the bubble where a lot of these guys, they had to go figure out how to work out, but Ja gained weight. He built a basketball court,
pounds,
right?
Megan.
Has a gym.
Jaren Jackson Jr. grew in it.
He grew.
He might still be growing.
and then they also talked about how they all were able to hang out. Like in that time, a lot of the guys did stay in Memphis, and they said that they got a chance to be around each other, and you got to see that not just in the bubble, but even from the bubble to the start of the season. Like these guys were a lot closer. You saw Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark making appearances on their Instagram pages. Brandon Clark's style changed a little bit, and he said he was a little influenced by Jaren. So that makes you so excited to what you could see very well. It's like, I wonder what this offseason, what we're gonna see when this group does come back.
Are you saying we could see Brandon Clark in a blazer without a shirt on?
I think
year?
So.
Woo!
I would not be surprised.
Wow, that's Cassie Carlson is the most stylish
oh my God, Jessica,
weekend sports anchor in the game. No, she actually has the best fashion in the world. Not to get super girly on it, but check it out. She always rocks it well. I will say, Cassie, from your standpoint of covering this team, and it's been such a treat to see Ja Morant really live up to the expectations, especially in this postseason run. And it feels like every night he's doing something that is truly indescribable. You have to, write highlights. For people who don't know, Cassie goes in, watches the game, cuts her own highlights, writes her own highlights, and then will anchor those highlights on the weekends. Do you ever find that it's really hard to figure out what words to use for Ja Morant? Because it feels like we've used them all, and we have to keep coming up with new ways to describe how he plays.
Yeah, I feel like electric is always used. I probably repeat them a little bit too much, but it's like jaw dropping, literally. I don't know. It's like, it's almost hard to cut highlights too, because there are so many job plays that you can put in there, and you're like, I need to choose the best one, but I also need to include other people in it too. And it's like, I feel like there's an infinite number of words that you can use to describe Ja, and I feel like that's just going to keep building and building. But Ja is, I use electric again, because I just don't see things like that on a nightly basis anywhere in the NBA. And he's earned the respect from other players in the NBA too. I mean, crossing over Donovan Mitchell, the oops off the board for himself. I think he did that in like the first game of the season when he put up 44. I mean, the guy's incredible.
Mm-hmm. He's so incredible that it makes me excited to see what is to come for him in his future, especially here for Memphis and for next season, because he's going to get to work. This is a guy who watches so much film, who works out all the time, and he's got a dad like T. Morant. Like, I mean, those two combined.
Yeah, I mean, like you said about Ja putting on 12 pounds in quarantine, upping his game then. I mean, he's probably one of the players that takes loss as motivation most. Mm-hmm. And to see what he's going to do next, I think he's going to come out. I mean, the guy is like in the top tier of players in the NBA when it comes to playoff basketball and what he's able to do and who he's now kind of like sits with in the NBA history. I mean, that doesn't come around very often.
No, it does not. Scored 151 points and had 41 assists in those first 5 NBA playoff games of his career, making him the first player in NBA history with 150 plus points and 40 plus assists through their first 5 NBA playoff games. Cassie, what's next for you? What do you do now?
Great question. Well, in local sports, it's like one thing after another. So now that the Grizzlies are done, I kind of gotta think. I'm trying to think. In the summer, we got Redbirds. 901 FC is going to return to AutoZone Park in a few weeks here. Then you have WGC FedEx St. Jude coming back, and then it's football season. It's like a constant revolving door of sports, which is the fun part about local sports, is that it's never ending. So there's always something coming up. So I think next it'll be mostly Redbirds and 901 FC, and then we get into football season.
It'll be here before we all know it. And the NBA playoffs are still going on. I know I feel
draft.
like in our head we're like, okay, the Grizzlies are over. We still had some.
The season doesn't exist without the Grizzlies.
Right. The journey continues for a lot of other teams, and so it's still a jam-packed sports summer. We still got to figure out in the NFL where players are going, where Aaron Rodgers will be. Like, I mean,
where is Aaron Rodgers?
Where is
we haven't
he
heard
right
from
now?
him and Shailene in like a week.
I know. There's so much going on top of all that with local sports too as well. I mean, you'll be busy, Cassie. You will. So I hope you find the time to like take a moment to take a break.
We'll try.
And come back on here because we loved having you.
Yes,
so we'll have to make this more of a normal thing. For sure. Well, we so appreciate you coming on the show today. Take some time to rest if you can in some way, shape, or form.
More than I do.
Yeah, we'll try.
So true.
But we're so happy that you came on, and we can't wait to see you again soon.
All right, thanks, ladies.
Bye, Cassie.
Thanks. All right, make sure you go follow Cassie Carlson on her Twitter page, Cassie Carlson TV. We still got a lot of off-the-grind news because, as we said, NBA playoffs still happen. There's still 4 games last night, and the journey ended for a lot of other teams last night as well. So we'll recap all of that and get you some of the breaking news that happened around the other sports world. We'll be right back.